Hello everybody, let's see some useful tips and tricks in Rhino for modeling. The first will be orient. If you have some objects that's floating in the air and it's not horizontal or vertical, maybe you can try this command. It's called orient. If you're typing and choose orient on surface, then you choose the object and select a base point and a reference point for scaling. Then you hit the surface. You have a perfect copy of your want. Okay. The next will be aligning a group of objects. If you select them together and go to front view, I would suggest, and you type align. Then follow the instruction, you hit the bottom and click on the ground plane. Then you have all the objects landed on the ground. So the next will be blocking. I think most of us are using blocking, but there are some tips about it. First of all, if you're doing some customized objects that is going to be repeated a lot, it's highly recommended that you use block because it will save a lot of memory. And it's also easier for you to edit them off if you're changing your design. So let's start with making them together as a block. If you're typing block and you choose the base point, I will suggest you name it according to the components. Like for instance, like this is a column and it's still, then you hit OK, then it's blocked. You probably can start to array it. I'll not do much. Okay, then you have your 4 columns. What is very good about it is that when you're clicking on one, then you change it, it will change all the others. And also another thing is that you can easily sort out your blocks according to their names. If you type in cell blocks, you can use cell block instance name. Then you can choose the block instance according to their name. Then we are choosing the column made of steel. Then in the file, we are picking out the things we want. Okay. And also in Rhino, we usually want to scale 1D or scale 2D things to get different types of objects. But for blocks, it is a little bit tricky because if you scale it wrong, you cannot edit them again. But if you scale 1D or 2D of it, it is okay to restore it. For instance, if I scale 1D of it, okay, I have to be really careful, so I go to the top view. If we scale 1D, then you will find that you cannot edit it anymore. It will pop up like unable to edit non-uniformly scaled block instances. But there's a new command that is created that I call like block reset scale. If you hit on that, it will help you to restore it. However, if you shear it or distort it, it will not help you anymore. Okay, so next one will be about boolean and merge surfaces. So this is what we have for this component. What we can do to create this type of like shape is that we used to bucket boxes and just to boolean them together, right? But then we will get these like awkward edges. It's not shown in the octave view because it's according to the previous setting. But if we turn on like for instance like pen view, then we will see the edges in the middle. So what we can do is like use the command called like merge our coplanar surfaces. Then we hit the object, then we automatically calculate the surface that is coplanar, then eliminate the edges. It will be very helpful for your Boolean objects. And next will be extract the curves. There will be like 2 groups of commands that's usually used for that. The first group will be called like extract. So you can do a lot of things like extract curves, the edges. You can probably try everything, but usually the most used will be extract wireframe. that will extract everything, including the construction lines of that. And all the edges are single lines. And another very useful group of command will be called duplicate face border. What I feel like this is more useful is that when you select this and you dupe the face borders, each face, the lines are connected into a closed polyline, so that it will be very easy for you to hatch one surface or another, and they're all closed already. Okay. Then the next thing will be selection filter. So sometimes we just feel like things are too much, and also there will be annoying like curves on the surfaces we extracted. We want to get rid of it, and it's very tedious to select them one by one. So there's a group of clicks I usually keep it. It's called like selection filter. So if you type in selection filter, then it will show or hide. Then the trick is that if you right click on the points, for instance, then you can just select every point by dragging a window. And if you right click again, it will just return to the previous space. And also, if you want to work in between like points and all the other elements, you can just left click the points, cancel it. And now you can select everything without points. And if you right click on points again, then it will like switch to only points. So it is a kind of very useful box for you to choose the objects you want. Okay. Next will be apply materials. So now we need to turn to the rendering view, and you have like different materials. I think everybody get to know how to create a custom material, and usually we use texture to change the mapping. So if we select the surface and we go to the texture, and we usually choose planar mapping for a surface, and we use box mapping for a B-wrap. And the last thing will be about viewports and output. I would like to introduce ray traced. This is a viewport less used, but I usually found sometimes it's really helpful, especially you want to add like line work onto a rendered image with material. So this is usually what we have if we turn on the render view, and it is just like some ambient like shading, but it is not actually showing the shadows. And the shadows is sometimes very sketchy in Rhino if you are using the default setting. So if we go to options, and in ray trace mode, you can try to adjust the lighting. We can turn on the default. Then you can see there will be a very sharp shadow there because it's really doing the rendering process. So now it's like ray trace cycles, rendering. You can see it's passes. It's 200, 300 now. So let's just pause this. This will be what we will have for our final image. You have the edges, and you also have the shadows. And if we use view capture to file, what we usually use for screenshot, then we can choose the number of passes. So 500 is pretty kind of enough, but if we want like more refined images, we can turn it into 1000, then you wait more times to get a final rendering. Okay, I will render now. So that's it for the modeling part. And the last part will be about libraries. So it is not so easy to find out like Rhino models that's useful. It's because like in industry, we usually use Rabbit model, and everything is like parameterized, so it's easier to adapt the objects to your own project. So here I would suggest using a lot of like cat library and the Rabbit objects available online, which is pretty detailed, and also they usually have material self. And the first one will be this library. I will give you the link. It's like 500 megabytes, pretty large, and have all the connections and nodes will be helpful. And another website it's called BIM Objects, and most of them are free. The industrial providers, they are very happy to give free models because they want people to use their models and finally buy their products. So if we can go to, for instance, like plumbing, you can find different objects and you can use the filter. The file type you can choose, because like the RFA format, the Revit format is not recognized by Rhino. So what we can choose is like AutoCAD, DWF possibly yes, and OBJ of course. OBJ. Yeah, so these files, they can be recognized by Rhino. So if we choose one and you hit download, you can see there are different formats. We can choose the AutoCAD format, which will be DWG, and we can download them. So, because it's not parentized anymore, if it's exported as DWG, so there will be a lot of like different sizing dimensions. Just pick out what you want. And if you have Revit, it will be easier because you can just convert everything using Revit to OBJ, and you can reopen it in Rhino. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.